Okay, aloha kako, everyone. Welcome. Good evening, everyone. Ole makiki ho. Thanks for joining us this evening. My name is James Eustace. I'm the president of the Waimea Community Association. To open up our meeting tonight, I'd like to welcome Auntie Kala to join us in a pule here. Welcome, Auntie. Yes, please. Please join me up here.
E pule kako, e kia ko mana loa e no mako kamau keiki hiwa o kia kaya ulu o Waimea kia moku o kohala. Noi mako ya oi e noho pume mako I kia ahi ahi. Heavenly Father, we ask that you sit with us this evening with those who are present, those who are on their way, that you be able to alakai, you be able to lead us in the direction that our community, that our district of Kohala needs to go into, Heavenly Father. We also ask, Heavenly Father, that you please be with our representatives at the county level, at the state level, Heavenly Father, that we may all be able to sit at the same table, make discussions for the betterment of our children today, tomorrow, and the years to come way before us. Heavenly Father, when this is all done, we ask that you take us home safely. Me kia pule ha'aha, whaihovau I kia mako, koma wawai makaino, kamakua ki kia me ka uhane hemalele. Amen. Amen.
Okay, apologies. There's just some new tech we're working with here, and welcome everyone. We're great to be here at Tutu's house. This year, the system here that you're going to be seeing is going to capture voices across the room. So if you are speaking, it's kind of going to look, the camera's going to look at you, and then it will also split out. So other noises it kind of picks up and it'll split off the screen. And we also have some of our electeds on the screen and Officer Robinson. So mahalo, Auntie. Thank you for the pule. It was very nice. Thank you. So thank you for joining us here for our first hybrid meeting for Waimea Community Association. This is fun. This is a new challenge and a new adventure for us. And tonight we're meeting here at Tutu's house, and we'll be connecting with presenters and viewers virtually. As always, and to our viewers online, I encourage you to follow, like, and subscribe to Waimea Community Association. You can find us on our social accounts, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and then we also have resources up on our website at waimeatown.org. We do strive to keep those social accounts active and up to date. This evening, we're streaming both to YouTube and Facebook for our viewers online, those who wanted to watch it later on, maybe this weekend or later tonight. I'd also like to at this point recognize my fellow board members. Not here this evening, but with us is our Vice President Mary Beth Lachek, our Treasurer Jeremy Madrid in the back over there, our Secretary Nancy Carr-Smith, and our director is Riley Smith, who was up in the front there. You met him when you were coming in. Lonnie Olson-Chong is right in the back there. Thanks, Lonnie. David Greenwell is helping with chairs as well. And then Patty Cook. Thank you. So on behalf of the Waimea Community Association Board, we're grateful for the support shown by you, our fellow community members, to hold these town meetings. We've been holding them for the past 2 years plus virtually. And so this is kind of an exciting step to be back in person with you in the community here. Grateful for you all viewing those meetings and sharing those recordings as well. And then we're grateful for tonight, the generosity of Tutu's house as we transition and reincorporate that missing and long requested component of meeting in person. So we're going to see how this works out here tonight for us. And we're really thrilled to bring this back together with you. And always, these are some of my spiels, as you probably heard before. The Waimea Community Association is a nonprofit organization that strives to promote open participation by all of the Waimea community, develop leadership, support the smart growth of the region. And if you'd like to support the work that we've done, continue our effort in connecting with community members, you're more than welcome to donate and join as a member. Let's see, you can always send us a communication through our email, waimeacommunityassociation@gmail.com. Your contributions and your membership allow us to come together, hold these meetings, address community concerns as best we're able to, and really connect with the community, much as the work we've done over the past 60 years. So mahalo nui. Our main focus for tonight, as a lot of you have seen the agenda and our blasts, everything, our e-blasts and online, is really to connect with our elected legislators that represent the Waimea area. So we look forward to hearing from them tonight about their priorities for the year ahead and learning how we can support their efforts as well. We also be spending some time with our community police officer, Officer Robinson, a number of community organizations, and also some special guests that join us here this evening. We have allocated some time in our agenda to share your questions with our elected officials, and we appreciate any community members that have sent in questions ahead of time. We have tried to encapsulate some of those that came in early, and then we can call on you if you have questions during that particular time. And then if any of our viewers are online, we can try and capture those questions as well and try and intersperse those. We'll do our best this evening with the time we have to address as many questions as we can. And of course, as always, our elected officials are always willing and able to answer your questions when they're available. And we'll share that information with you as well. So really to dive into things here, we're going to welcome Officer Robinson on the screen here. I'll unpin this one. And Officer Robinson, if you want to unmute yourself there.
Hello.
And then say hello to the community here and give us a little community policing update. Welcome, officer.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Officer Robinson, one of the community police members. The other officer, Officer Kabanting, is currently dealing with a traffic accident, so he's not available to come to this meeting. But today I'm going to go over the last and final stats for 2022. So South Kohala, as far as crimes go, we had 6 assaults, 3 burglaries, 10 criminal property damage cases, 15 thefts, 0 robberies, 3 unauthorized control of a propelled vehicle or auto theft, and 1 UEMV, which is unauthorized entry into a motor vehicle. What we found notable and continues to be the case in most of these is criminals tend to go after crimes of opportunity. So people leaving cars, houses, unlocked, unsecured, unattended, no cameras, no devices to keep people out. That tends to be the commonality with a lot of these. Not to blame the victims, but to say that it is wise for you guys to lock up your property as much as possible. As far as traffic casualties go, we were fortunate to have only 11 major traffic casualties. So that's traffic casualties involving damages greater than $3,000 or injury. We had no fatalities. We had 3 DUI arrests, and there were 36 reckless drivers called in. Also of note, we noticed that the peak time for traffic casualties, both major and minor, was between 4 and 5 p.m. this month. So just kind of interesting. But yeah, we issued a total of 597 citations for various different offenses, and that's pretty much it. I guess the only thing else that we'd bring up is that we're going to have a coffee with the cops. So anyone that wants to come out and meet with us, January 20th, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. at Waimea Coffee Company. If you guys want to come join us, please come out, talk story, get to know us. We'd be happy to see you. That's all I got.
Thank you, Officer Robinson. I appreciate you joining us here tonight. I appreciate all the work you're doing for our community. Thank you. We're kind of moving, we're going to change the agenda a little bit. Both of our state legislators have somewhere else to be later tonight, some other meetings. So we're going to dive right into that. We're grateful for having all 4 of our elected officials join us here this evening that represent the Waimea area. And in particular, the state legislature is opening next week. So they're a bit busy, our 2 state legislators. Next week, Wednesday, they're going to kick things off. And let's see, so we're going to visit with our council members a little bit later after some other community updates. And I'd like to dive in with the Representative Tarnas. If you'd like to unmute yourself there, sir, and then we'll give you 10 minutes to kind of update the community and share your goals and priorities for the year ahead. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to meet with everybody. I'm sorry I can't be there in person, but I'm over here at the Capitol at my office working to prepare bills. We are starting session next week, but we're already in the middle of meetings, budget hearings, budget briefings, and preparing bills for introduction. The pre-filing deadline actually has started already, so we've already started to file bills. I'm reviewing them and submitting my own legislation and signing on to other bills. This session, I have a new assignment as a committee chair of the Committee on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs. So it's a departure from the Water and Land Committee, which is the one that I have chaired before. I still will work on many issues because often the bill will come to the Water and Land Committee and then be referred to Judiciary as a second committee. So I'll still get to work on some of those measures. But in the Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs Committee, I've got a whole set of measures that I'll briefly go over with you. But first, I want to talk about some of the major capital improvement project that I want to pursue this session. You know, the Waikoloa Library is a project that we've been working on for quite a while, and we're at the stage now. We have a site. It's on county land. The county is working very well, and I appreciate the support from our council members. Cindy Evans, who actually took a lead on this when she was a state representative, and now will be able to continue to support it as a council member. And we have the plans are already moving forward and design. The site is already identified. The county is going to next work on a lease that will come before the council probably within a couple of weeks. And so this session, I'll be putting in a funding request for the construction of the project. And I'll be working with our state senator, who also had worked on this when he was with the council before, Tim Richards. So that's a major project we're moving forward. I want to emphasize that this is the first library that we're going to be working on for Waikoloa. After we get this project funded and moving forward, the next project is going to be looking at a future new library in Waimea. Well, the library system really wants to move the library from the current site in Waimea School and create their own site to have a community library that is likely to be located out closer to the Shudi Park, the regional park there. It's got a ways to go, but that's our plan. We're step-by-step process to get there. But it's time that we get the Waikoloa project, library project up and going, and then we'll start working on the Waimea library for the future. The next big capital improvement project in the region is going to be funding to assist the Division of Boating and Ocean Recreation to do a master plan for the full build out of Waihai South Small Boat Harbor. That's the new small boat harbor that's to the south, and it's currently underutilized, and I really want to fully build it out so we've got all the slips in there that should be in there, and that we develop the fast lands around it so that we can fully utilize that for community purposes. And so it's, as I say, underutilized at this point. So my plan is to put in a CIP budget request for master planning for the Waihai South Small Boat Harbor and the Marina Basin full build out. Again, I'll share this information with State Senator Tim Richards, so he'll know what I'm working on, and he's got his own priorities as well, but we work closely because he's got a much bigger district than just the House District 8. And then finally, the last major project that I'm going to really be pushing for is the Saddle Road extension. In fact, this morning I met with the military leadership at the Indo-PACOM command here, the head of the Army garrison, the commander for all the services here, and emphasized to them the need for federal funding to help the state with, who will put in some money as well, to build the Saddle Road extension. The military traffic is really creating a lot of wear and tear on our roads, and it's time that we improve that and finish the job, build that Saddle Road extension between Mamalohoa and Queen Kahumano Highway. The state paused that project because they couldn't afford the $90 million price tag for it. So the strategy now is to go back and get federal funding for it and support it with some state funding, but it won't be at the 90 million. It's probably going to be more like 20 million from the state, 70 or 80 million from the feds. So it's got to really be a partnership there. I've met with the congressional delegation, and it's going to be a full court press. And I'll again work with State Senator Tim Richards on that. That's a priority for the region. Let me briefly cover a couple of the major bills that I expect to see before the committee I'm now chairing, the Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs Committee. For Hawaiian Affairs, the legislature last session appropriated $600 million to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands to build out additional house lots and housing to address folks on the waiting list. The legislature appropriated this really historic level of funding to DHHL. So our project now this session, our focus this session is to work with DHHL to make sure they can spend that money and meet the goals, which is really to reduce the number of people on the waiting list. This morning we had, or this afternoon, we had a budget briefing with the new director, Chair Ikaika Anderson. He has not yet been confirmed by the Senate, but we met to talk about what their plans are and both in terms of the budget, but also some legislation that he will likely propose in order to make sure they can meet their goals. The other, of course, major Hawaiian organization, government organization in the state is Office of Hawaiian Affairs. And so that will be the other focus of the committee in Hawaiian Affairs. I met with a number of the trustees with OHA and their leadership to talk about their legislative package, and I'll be working with them through this session. Let me just highlight several of the major topics of bills that we'll be dealing with before the Judiciary Committee that I'm sure you're interested in. We had two legislators who were indicted for public corruption charges, bribery. It was terrible. I was appalled by their behavior. I know both of them. One was a senator, one was a representative. And the fact that they did that was just absolutely appalling. And it made the rest of us look bad. We're all honest people here, but here we had these two people taking cash bribes to do the job that you've elected us to do. So in response to that, the House set up a special commission to review all of our laws and our rules and make recommendations on how to address this and strengthen our statutes to fight public corruption. All of those bills will likely come to the Judiciary Committee. So we'll be dealing with all of them. And there's a long list. And if you're interested, you can look at the commission's report and all of their recommendations. It's on the legislative website at capital.hawaii.gov on the front page of the House page. You can take a look at that. Covers everything from improving reporting requirements for campaign spending to improving the way we operate at the legislature, just to provide more transparency about what we do. We'll also be dealing with, as you know, it's been in the press a lot because of a Supreme Court decision. Every county now has to come up with rules to determine who might be able to get a concealed carry permit for a gun. Every county police department is coming up with rules for this. There's a real recognition among each of the county police departments that it's best to have standardized approach statewide. So I expect we will have a bill that will move through the Judiciary Committee that addresses this and standardizes what are the training requirements in order to get a concealed carry permit, and also what are the sensitive places where concealed carry weapons are not allowed to be brought.
Representative, you have one more minute.
Go ahead.
You have one more minute, sir.
Yes. So another area that we'll be covering is protecting the women's right to make their own choices for reproductive health. And so I think we'll be having a number of bills related to that as well. And finally, I think we'll probably also have a number of bills that relate to trying to address pretrial best practices and try to deal with a situation where we have a lot of non-violent offenders in jail because they can't pay bail. And so I'm going to be trying to address that by looking at how other states do it. What are the best practices for pretrial detainees? So that's in a very summary format, some of the major issues we'll be dealing with. I'm happy to respond to questions. Back to you, James.
Thank you, Representative. And Representative, you need to leave at about 6, is that right?
Yes, I have another meeting at 6 o'clock. I apologize, but I'm double booked.
So I'm going to take actually just some questions for Representative Tarnas then, if that's okay. So we'll go for 5 minutes, Representative Tarnas. And then, so I'm just going to call on people. We have a couple of questions already that are prepared. And so if you just want to identify yourself, and then we can share some questions, Representative. Anticol, I think you had a question already. So if you just want to address
So
Representative
do I
Tarnas.
just sit or do I have to stand?
Either you stand or sit, it's up to you. The camera will pick you up, yeah.
I see you.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha. First of all, I want to introduce myself to those who don't know me. My name is Willette Kalaukahaku. My last name is Akima, hyphenate Akau. The Pilina for me and Waimea is my grandparents, Elena and Alika Flores, were one of the first Hawaiian home recipients in Kuhio Village. My grandmother, Elaine Flores, today her restaurant is Hawaiian style, but she opened that up in 1961. I'm trying to create this relationship. My father, Willie Akima, was a state meat inspector for the island of Hawaii. I am now married to Eddie Akau. So I stand here in this room, representing my husband's family, the Akau family, who has lived in Kauai for over 200 years. I also come here as a representative of Kauai Canoe Club, a 50-year club over the 50 years with thousands of members. And maybe this year we have 300, but I'm just saying over the years. David, I mahalo you very much for you and your fellow legislators for securing the monies for our break wall down at Kauai. My question to you is, has it been released? Has it been released to DLNR? And for me, because I live right down there, I see every day the changes because of now us with the high surf, that the longer we wait, the worse this wall is getting. And eventually it will damage the facilities that we already have there. So my question is, as an Akau Ohana, as Kauai Canoe Club, who has been the stewards, very good stewards down there at North Harbor, how do we help and work with you to expedite this work to get going? Because we need it to be done, because really it is affecting the livelihood of the Kohala people.
Yes, Willette, thank you so much for your advocacy and championing Kauai, and your family has a very important lineage and kuleana for Kauai, and I appreciate that. So we did secure funding for the improvements that are needed at Kauai North. This is where the breakwater was breached, and it continues to be damaged by high surf. And the harbor dock was also really broken so much that we had to take it down. There's a temporary harbor dock that's been built there, but I was able to secure with my colleagues here at the legislature $8 million to pay for an improved breakwater and harbor dock. The DLNR has told me that they are completing the environmental assessment and design work for repair of the breach section of the breakwater and rebuilding the harbor dock. The draft EA is nearly complete. It was supposed to have been released last month. I'm expecting it to be released very soon, and I've asked DOBOR today for a timeline so that I can tell you. And I asked Jay Nickerson to contact you, Willette, with this information directly as well from the agency. The consultant is now finalizing all the permitting documents and specifications and bidding documents. The goal is to issue the final EA within the next couple of months, and then put out the bid for construction. And hopefully construction will start later this year. It's not as soon as I want it to be, and I hear you that it continues to be damaged, but they estimate construction to start in October of this year and completion by April 2024. I know that that's not fast enough, but that's what DOBOR is laying out in order to comply with the procurement code and get this project done and done right. So that's the latest I have for you.
What I'm afraid of, David, is that we're waiting. It's going to be April 24th. We're probably going to go through another winter storm, and the money that is appropriated right now or has been released will not be enough when we get there.
I appreciate that. And we actually have, I put in a buffer on it. So we actually have 8 plus 1.6 million. So we got 9.6 million in order to cover the full cost, because I had an idea that this would probably be the case, that there would be continuing damage. So I will keep on pushing. The money has been released. Everything is lined up to do it. We just got to go through the process. And government projects, and I'm sure Tim Richards will say the same thing, they take forever and they take way too long. But I will continue to push, and I really encourage you to make this sense of urgency very clear to Jay Nickerson when he calls you, because I urged him to call you right away, and also to brief the Canoe Club members, because they are all strong advocates.
I think he likes when we write letters to him. The community writes letters. Mahalo nui, mahalo.
Representative, we're a little bit out of time here, kind of short, but I was wondering if you could touch on quickly, since we're talking about the ocean and the Kai, briefly on cesspools in our coastal areas.
Well, the cesspool conversion working group has made a recommendation that, you know, we convert cesspools, and they've identified priority areas. The final report was released just a week or two ago that identified priority areas. What I have done is I was able to get support to appropriate funds to the County of Hawaii to address the specific issues of cesspools and septic tanks at Puako, because that area is a critical area where there's a lot of specific contamination that we can tell going into the nearshore area. And so county has the funds to do the initial work on that. They've already let the contract. It's slightly broader than just Puako, but that's going to be our main target area, is to try to address that. It is a top priority. We will be dealing with some of that this session. I think we're going to be renewing a $10,000 tax credit for people who have to convert their septic tank or cesspool to a septic tank to help defray the cost. So that'll be a piece of legislation where we're going to be working on this session.
Thank you, Representative. I'm sorry, we're out of time for Representative because we need to move on to Senator Richards, but just hang on to your questions because it could relate to Senator Richards as well regarding the.
And if I may say, James, you know, this is way too short. I know other people have questions and you want to contact me. Please contact me, call me, email me. I'm always very responsive. I work for you. And so I look forward to hearing from you, and I will make sure to correspond with you and answer your questions. So thank you, James, and thank you to everyone there.
Thank you, Representative. And I will put up on the screen their contact information as well for their office and their emails in a little while. So thank you. Thank you, Representative. Thank you for coming to North Hawaii and our communities, and wish you all the best this year in the state leg. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
All right. Yeah, I know it is a kind of quick and short. We're going to kind of dirty here and fast with things, and just a short amount of time with our state elected and county electeds. So I'd like to move on to Senator Richards. If you could unmute yourself, Senator, and then we'll give you some time here to address the group and then answer a couple of questions. Take it away, Senator.
Okay, thank you, James. First of all, thanks very much, Dave, for your input, and I will springboard off of some of the things that Rep. Tarnas was talking about. First of all, yes, I am fresh to the Senate, and a little bit about me, James, thanks for putting in my contact information. As always, that contact, same deal. If you need a question answered, please call us. The phone number will be put up, my email will be put up, and I'm doing the almost every week live at 5:15 Facebook update, just giving a brief synopsis of what's been going on. And I'm planning on doing that once we get into the Senate session as well. Timing may be a little bit different, so we'll have to see how that works out. But let's start. First of all, my assignments. As the incoming freshman senator, I've been assigned to agriculture and environment, and I feel very privileged to be named vice chair of that. I've also been placed upon commerce and consumer protection. That's where all the licensing comes through. education, and this is education from preschool up through 12th grade, and then Hawaiian Affairs. And education, like I said, the public school systems, Hawaiian Affairs, that's where OHA and Hawaiian Homes comes under. To touch on some of that things on education, already started working. I'm very mindful about this. Waikoloa region, we have a need for a community resource officer in that area. So working on that, and also working on the busing for everybody, because we have a lot of busing issues for our school kids to get to school. And again, there's no easy answer. Honolulu sometimes doesn't even realize the problems that we're having out in the area. As far as my priorities coming forth, very simple. What I want to do is I want to take care of the consumables, food, shelter, and security. And I want to work on those, the overall arching intent is to reduce our overall cost of living. And there's no easy answer. There's a lot of bills are coming through right now. A lot of people are asking to sign on. We're putting through a couple of bills, and we'll touch on that in a second. But my main thing I want to focus on is I want to look at agriculture. Everybody knows my history. My background is agriculture, and work on that and really enhancing that agriculture economy, the function of agriculture for our state. And we have to do that in several ways. Part of that, it comes through from the land access and water access. There's Act 90 that has been in law now for 20 years. It's for the transfer of lands from the DLNR, Department of Land Natural Resource, to Department of Agriculture for agriculture reason. That needs to be finished. And it's been languishing for the last 20 years. We also have to be able to ship our commodity products. And so we need to have facilities on the ports, sea and air. And I've talked to Department of Transportation, Ed Sniffen. He's very supportive of increasing that infrastructure for our agriculture going forward. More infrastructure, something that Rep. Tarnas talked about, the DKI, the Daniel Kainoi extension. Absolutely. As a councilman, I advocated for that in DC, worked with our representation, and that is coming back around. We need to get that going, because from a support of our county and realistically our state, that connector between East and West Hawaii is critical. Some of the other things that have come forth is, legislation. And this kind of bridges two things. Looking into it, there's a concern for our wastewater on our nearshore waters, specifically Pu'oko. Rep. Tarnas mentioned that, and he was able to get some funding to help Pu'oko. The county took one step back, and we're looking at putting in a regional plan, master plan, to figure out how to get this done, because that's not the only place. One piece of legislation that I want to introduce is, from an environmental standpoint, do nearshore water monitoring in areas not just like Pu'oko or Ali'i Drive, but some other areas. And this has to do with two things. First of all, for our wastewater, we have to also pay attention to the health of the water, thus the health of the coral. And this is something I was working with a county councilman from Florida, and we're working on this together when I was in council. This is kind of graduating over to that. With that, I think that'll help us prioritize our needs of where we need to do more management for the wastewater first. We're gonna have to do it all, but it's gonna have to be incremental. Other thing I want to work on is energy. I want to put forth and work on developing a hydrogen economy here in Hawaii. We have lots of renewable resources, but we need to be able to store that energy. And one of the ways is hydrogen. That's something that we can actually do. Rep. Tarnas talked about CIP projects, and I'm fresh in the Senate. I will be supporting some things that have come forth. There's a $50 million CIP request for the Hilo Hospital, and I'm interested in looking at that. We need to expand our healthcare on the neighbor islands. We have a big issue with that, especially the kupuna care. And so also looking at introducing legislation to expand the kupuna care for transportation, but also it has to do with availability of telemed, which means more broadband availability. So even though we're focusing on one thing, It's a bit more broad when we're looking at this, because there's some synergy between these different things that I think we can work on and get things together. I am not wild about introducing a whole bunch of legislation just to do that. What I want to do, and I did the same thing when I was in county council, I start out by building bridges. I start out by developing relationships and getting an understanding of what's going on. Rep. Tarnas talked about Waimea, the harbor there. When I was just right as I was elected into the Senate, I was talking to Lieutenant Colonel Peavy, who is the new commander of Army Corps of Engineers. I put Waimea on his radar. I also put Lapahoehoe on his radar, as far as we need their input and we need their assistance in getting things done for those harbors. And again, what you talked about, we got to take care of North and South Kohala, and the way to do that is take care of Waimea. Very fond of the Akau family. I grew up with a lot of those guys, so I hear you, and I hear you loud and clear, and I will be supporting that effort going forward. I think that touches on the big things that I can move on my top priorities. I think we need to look at GE tax and what we are taxing. If we're concerned about taking care of the next generation, reducing our cost of living here, do we throttle back on the taxing for food, shelter? I think that we have to have that discussion. We need to work harder on the 201H, the affordable housing building. And what does that mean? We need to streamline that process, and we may need to do it at the state level. It's at the county, but we still have trouble with there. So I think we have to go back and relook at that one again. We have to make more government lands available for housing. And so I want to work on that with DLNR is where it's probably going to come from. We need an infrastructure for agriculture, taking inventory of what we have. And if we want to build that food self-reliance, food security, we have to have a master plan going forward. Land access and land tenure for agriculture is paramount, and that's that Act 90 we talked about. We have to get that going. And again, something spilling over from my days in county is the wastewater management. Big Island, we have 50,000 plus of the some 80,000 cesspools in our state. And we have to get this thing corrected. We've got about 30 years to get it done, but we have to get on it and start getting on it now. So taking steps toward that. So with that, James, that is a quick thumbnail of what I've been working on. One other thing let me touch on. The agriculture is nothing without availability of water. And the storm right before Christmas, we had trouble with Hamakua Ditch, upper and lower, mainly lower. We've had trouble with the Waipio Valley and the Lo'i down there. Upwards of 50% of the Lo'i are without water right now. And we had trouble with some of the ditches on the other side. We have a problem with the Kiana Ditch and the Kohala Ditch. And so I spent last week looking at a lot of water infrastructure and again, figuring out how we're going to get those things repaired so we can develop the water resources to move agriculture forward. With that, how about some questions?
Thank you, Senator. So we'll take about 7 minutes here, Lonnie, if that's okay. Did you have a question regarding the state ledge? If you could introduce yourself and then just stand up for the microphone.
I'm a firefighter at the base, Chuck Brown, with my wife Pam. My thing is the Waimea Road, or the traffic from the light, the main light in town, all the way to my house, which is 3 miles. I travel from the base to work 5 days a week, and I don't catch it going in the morning because I'm before. I have to be at work at 7 o'clock. But in the afternoon, thank God I'm going the other way, because every day, Monday through Friday, during school, there's at least 2 miles of traffic. I even videotaped it today, right? So there's 2 miles of traffic. So it's 2 miles from the light, the main light, to around the bridge. So traffic is right there. Now, this is for us and us locals that live here, and for the tourists. If they come from California or these big cities and Hawaii's where they want to spend their money, what are we doing for them? Some other people here, because I know you have to introduce yourself and what you're going to do in your time as a representative. But I wonder how many people sitting in here, by a show of hands, that's a big problem. A big problem. And like I said, 2 miles, 5 days a week, and I don't catch the morning one for the school buses. I know they're not gonna relocate the schools, the 3 schools, the Catholic school, the middle school of HPA and Parker Ranch School. So it's cheaper to do some type of bypass road. I'm sure this gets brought up time and time and time again, right? But we live here and I love this island. I came to visit here from Alaska in 2009. And then I moved here, got off the airplane in Kona on June 26, 2012. And I kissed the ground when my plane landed here. And I left cold Alaska, Fort Wainwright, and got here. So I've been here since. We need to do something about this because, like I said, it's for now and for the future. And between us and the tourists, they spend the good money here for the taxes and stuff like that. And we need to do something about it. I got other topics, but there's other people that want to talk.
Yeah.
But if you can talk on that.
Yep. Let me address that real quick. I was in that traffic this morning. I got 8-year-old twins that go to Waimea school. So I know the traffic very well. And what we're talking about is capacity. Previous administration said no building new capacity. That's why we never got a bypass road. This is not an exaggeration. I remember them talking about the bypass road when I was in 3rd grade. That's not an exaggeration. I have some ideas on how to get that done. And our new DOT chair, Ed Sniffen, who was part of Highways before. So he is keenly aware of this, and we've had this conversation, and I will be pressing it. We are going to be correcting the Waimea Stream crossing, changing that bridge, which will increase flow. The state has that, and as well as the road coming all the way through town. And there is work at the Parker School intersection that should be becoming a traffic circle to help with circulation. And so that is forthcoming, but Rep. Tarnas said it best, these government projects take years to get through. And so the earliest you're going to see something happen is probably 18 months to 2 years. And that would be at that second intersection as well as Waimea Stream. And just as another thing, it is in the budget to be paving from Mana Road out to Mud Lane. That is forthcoming as well. So that should be improving within the next, I'm going to guess, 18 months or so. All right. But yes, believe me, that's a priority for me. And I've got some ideas where we might be able to put a bypass road.
I talked about Waikoloa Road, right? And that's what the military is interested in. That road is bad, but also the road going out of Waimea to a certain section, they've paved it nice, right? But the rest of the road by the rodeo arena, all that, there's potholes. After this last storm, there were some serious potholes. Thank God that they went over there and filled them, but filling them's not gonna, the next storm, they're gonna be, it's gonna wash it away. So there's roads here that need to be taken care of. I got a laundry list, but like I said, I gotta give people.
Well, tell you what, send me the laundry list. I'll bet you it's not too dissimilar than mine. Waikoloa resurfacing should be starting 2nd quarter of this year. The paperwork should be done, so I'm told it's going to be starting 2nd quarter, and that's from top to bottom, Mamalohoa Highway down to Queen Kahumanu. The road out by the arena, the rodeo arena, that is state highway, but it was county, and so that we're graduating that over, and so I'll remind DOT chair about that.
Thanks, Senator.
Other questions?
James in the back, Mr. Kong.
Yeah, my question is, I noticed by the dump in Hawaiian Homelands, there's 12 500-gallon totes. I don't know what's in them, but if it's hazardous material, they should be removed.
Did you hear that, Senator?
Yeah, I did. I have no idea. I will look into it. If there's those totes, if there's something hazardous, we'll definitely look into it. And it's in that area, the Hawaiian Homes, where they did the street improvement. Is that where it is?
Well, it's on the bottom.
Okay, I'll go look. I'll go look.
And then also, is the state gonna ensure reciprocity for concealed carry in all counties? Or is it just gonna be each county has to get their own?
James, I can't answer that question because there's actually, I haven't seen any legislation coming forth. And so I don't know. I'm sure we're going to have some bill come forth. They're expecting about 3,000 bills to come into the legislature right now. And so I haven't seen anything, so I can't answer that one yet. But what I'll do is I'll keep my eyes open when I see that, then I can better communicate that to you guys.
We're gonna take one more question. Abby, do you have a question?
Yes, good evening, Senator. Hard time saying senator. A question, knowing you're new in the job, we did get some money last session to do the water connection, freshwater connection down at Hapuna Beach, but DLNR is telling us it's gonna take 2 years. Is there anything we can do to help you expedite that?
Stay tuned because I got the same information and well, I won't say what I said. There's got to be a way to even get a temporary fix because I get it. Yeah, it takes a long time to get this stuff done, but we can do something temporary. We are right now in our budget hearings, the first blush coming from the different departments. The DLNR, the named DLNR chair, Dawn Chang, is fresh on the job. She's been in the seat 10 days now. And so I have not had a chance to discuss this, but believe me, that is one of my big deals I'm going to go after.
Thank you, Senator. That's unfortunately the time we have for you right now. But I will share your contact information for the crew here and those are online to get a hold of you. Thanks for representing us in this big district of yours now.
Thank you very much. And like I said, yeah, this is Waimea, but as was stated before, we're talking about Waimea, we're talking about Kohala, we're talking about North Kona, we're talking about Hamakua. And so the district is large. It is the largest district in the state. But there's a lot of similarities. So we can work on one issue that actually benefits a good portion of that. So that's my intention. Please contact me if you have any comments, questions, concerns, and we'll take care of them. All right. Okay, thanks everybody so much. I have another obligation I have to get to. Aloha, everyone.
So at this point, we're going to kind of transition and do some community announcements and little updates. So the first one I'd like to welcome up is actually one of our fellow board members and the co-chair of the parade committee, our Waimea Christmas Parade Committee, Lonnie Olsen-Chung. She's just going to share those updates on the parade and the recap of the year.
Aloha. Aloha. So I'd like to first of all say mahalo to the following people. I had to make some notes. I don't forget anybody. I probably forget anybody. I mean, some people anyway, but especially to all of the participants who helped make this year's parade a huge success. The many sponsors who helped pay the expenses incurred and our Waimea Community Association to make sure that those bills got paid. The North Hawaii Rotary, who always provides the necessary insurance, our special duty police officers who got to enjoy the parade because everything ran so smoothly this year. And for clearing up the main highway in a very timely manner. The thousands, and I mean thousands of spectators who were there to enjoy this parade. I mean, not only our huge island, but our neighbor islands, and even from the big island across that vast ocean. And believe it or not, I get calls every year ensuring the date of the parade so that they can plan their vacation. And a lot of people mix up the Waimea parade with the Waimea on Kauai, because every year I still get calls from Kauai. Can I be in your parade? Sure. Do you know we're on the big island though? But yeah, you're welcome to come over. One year I even got an application from the mayor over there. The route change this year was a huge success. A lot more room for people to be able to watch the parade and kapu their space from early in the morning. And they did start early in the morning. You know that old adage, first come, first serve. Yeah. So if you were there early, you got your space. But everything went very well. There was no more room on Pukalani or Alauhia to park once we got started with the parade. We had very positive feedback with the new route. In spite of before it happened, people like, really, the new route is so long, blah, blah. But anyway, it turned out very well and very successful. So we're going to keep that route for the future moving forward. as we all know, nothing is free. It costs a lot of money to put this parade on, and with the rising costs, it's getting more difficult to make it happen. This year, I think we barely got by the skin of our teeth to cover our expenses. Narrator stations alone, I mean, we've graduated. We had what, maybe 6 narrator stations when we first started years ago, and then 8, then 10. And this year we had planned for 15 narrator stations. And we ended up with 14, but 15 narrator stations. And the expenses in a narrator station is the tent, the sound, generators to provide power along the route where we don't have access to electricity. Fortunately, 2 homes in Lola'i were willing to let us pull power from their houses on the top and the bottom. So that was really good. And of course, along downtown, we got from the businesses close by. But the generator costs help to make these expenses go up as well. So it's really expensive to do a narrator station. The LUAs, we only had 10, but we clearly could have used more and could have used more narrator stations as well. Our special duty police is a huge expense too. Some drive from far away. Some come from Kona, some come from further than that, Kohala, Honoka, past Honoka, to be here. Now, mind you, they don't have to be here, but they do because they know we need the help. And without them, you know, we'd really have a lot of problems that we couldn't address. But to give us a peace of mind, they are willing to be here for us. We cannot ask our participants for an entry fee, because they spend a lot of money on the lights that they provide, the gas, the time. So it just wouldn't be fair to a participant to ask them for an entry fee. So here we come, we ask for you. We want sponsors. We have a lot of sponsors and we really appreciate our sponsors, but we need more sponsorships. And so we ask for your help in helping us to get more sponsorships so that we can cover the rising costs for our parade as we go forward. Thank you so much. Love you all. Happy New Year.
Lonnie, you have a question about the parade?
I do,
Yes.
the horn. I can't be the only one. I know I'm not the only one.
Well, if you don't mind, we'll have Lonnie, if you could answer some
Okay,
of those.
so just one quick note to that, you are not the only one. So honestly, we need our truckers. Without our truckers, we wouldn't have a parade.
That's what makes it free.
I mean, they're not the only participants, but they have to pull the floats and the entries. Our truckers work hard for us year round as they transport everything that we need across this island. They are part of us. And this is their one time that they get to shine. Everybody has a time to shine. This is their time.
Yes.
So I politely tell people, I'm sorry, you can have options. You can stay home or bring your trucks or leave early. Some people will leave before the truckers start. They do that, but the truckers will not stop. The parade will stop if we lose our truckers.
That's the Waimea parade.
Thanks, Auntie. Next up, I'd like to welcome Cheryl Langton. She's the president of the Waimea Outdoor Circle with some news and updates about the Waimea Nature Park.
Yeah, the Waimea Nature Park. About 4 years ago, I applied for a state legislative grant to pave the roadway coming into the park.
Okay.
It's dusty, it's potholes, it's a huge maintenance issue. That was 4 years ago. And Senator Lorraine Inouye helped us with that. We were successful with the grant. We received the funding in January of 21. And we were able to start working with the engineer to design the roadway. We received some additional funding from the Hawaii Community Foundation. Okay, so each contract that, the way it works, it's 1 year. So I am now into the 3rd extension. It's taken this long, talk about government and all of this, right? Right before Christmas, we received our approved grading permit and the approved plan. So we're finally ready to start, and we anticipate starting the end of January. I don't have a set date, but the reason I came here is to let you know that we will be closing the park. We're not sure exactly when or for how long. We're hoping just the vehicles, but you know, there'll be heavy equipment in there. LED Builders is working on this with us, and Young Goodfellow. And so we've got a great crew. We've got the money in place. We're ready to go, and we will do everything we can to keep you updated so nobody's caught off guard. So thank you for your patience and for getting the word out.
Thank you, Cheryl. This evening, we're also joined by a couple of special guests from the Honolulu Civil Beat team. Today, these guests held a public forum at the Thelma Parker Memorial Library. I don't know if maybe a couple number of you stopped by to say hello. They had a kind of a pop-up forum there, newsroom, and we're excited to have them join us here this evening. We're joined by Paula Dobbin, Thomas Heaton, and Nathan Eagle, I believe.
Nathan couldn't make it.
Okay, Paula, if you want to just introduce yourself and then just share a little bit about your work on the outer islands here and some of the adventure you had today at the library. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks everybody for letting us come and introduce ourselves. I'm Paula Dobbin. I'm the Big Island reporter for Civil Beat. I live in Waikoloa. And I also cover Maui to some extent. And do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Thomas Heaton. I cover agriculture, food systems, and the Pacific. And I take every opportunity I can to come to the agriculture island.
Yeah, so we're doing these pop-up newsrooms, which a lot of people are like, what is a pop-up newsroom? And basically the concept is we just pop over to public libraries, mostly in various communities, and we just set up shop, we do our work and we just, talk with members of the public. And we really view it as an opportunity to build sources, to get story ideas, to hear what's on the mind of community members and our readers, and give us feedback on how we're covering things or ideas about what you'd like to see covered. So we had one today, and then we have one tomorrow at the Waikoloa Village Association banquet room from 10:30 to I think 5:30. And then we're going to do another one in Honoka'a, January 25th, I believe. And so just, we're, looking to spread the word and just kind of getting to know our community better. The Civil Beat expanded their coverage to the neighbor islands in February. So that's when I was hired. That was when the Maui reporter was hired. We had somebody on Kauai already, but we're just making a push to kind of get out of Honolulu and, recognize the fact that it's a big state. It's a big, far-flung state of islands. And, it's not the easiest place to cover, but we're doing our best. And we just invite you to contact us. I'm sure you'll have our contact information available. And yeah, we're here for a little while longer if you guys have questions or something. I don't know how much time we have.
Council member? Quickly.
Yeah, my question is, do you do articles that are a series of articles that you would do like 3 or 4 or 5 different articles and find those topics? Because I think that we as a community might be able to, tell you some issues that may need to be, following our, there's articles, a story to be told.
Absolutely. We often run specific, very dedicated series to very specific subjects. Like towards the end of last year, I published a project which ended up being 4 parts and then another couple of extra pieces on the end of it. Albeit this was based in the Solomon Islands for a different issue, but we totally embrace that because I think deep dives, investigative kind of stuff is really it's really part of us. That's what we do. And that's what we really pride ourselves on. So absolutely, always interested.
Like investigating. I think a lot of us should have been like police officers, but we went into like an easier profession. So we love to dig deep and find out things that people should know about. So.
Paula, your story recently on fentanyl was fabulous. And I'm sure, I think you all watch Civil Beat, it's online, and you just did a super job and really made a difference because it's so important that the community understand what's going on. So thank you. I just want to say thanks.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, if you ever, there's actually, we're gonna have a follow-up story on that about fentanyl test strips, because those are actually illegal. They're considered drug paraphernalia. Yeah, and so we're gonna reveal that and talk about things that are going on to kind of change that.
Well, from a school's point of view, DOE will not let us have them on campus, the Narcan. And then we're going to be working at the legislature on that, but that to me is also an unfolding story. It's crazy that we can't have something that's harmless to be able to respond to an issue if something happens.
Yeah, totally.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paula. Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us here this evening.
Okay.
And look forward to your reporting on the Thank you so much. Just in 1 second here, I'm just going to share my screen with a couple of other community information and updates and things that are going on in the community. Sorry. So there are a couple of things I've up on the screen here. The first, I'm just going to go these pretty quickly because we're running out of a little time here. But the first one is actually kicking off tomorrow at Isaac's Art Center. They're running, excuse me, their annual Hawaii Wood Guild Invitational Masters Show. So there are a whole bunch of wood art that's going to be in there on display and for sale as well that benefit financial aid for Hawaii Preparatory Academy. So that's kind of kicking off there, open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Isaac's Art Center there. Let's go to the next one. I got a couple here. Next week, there is a zoning and subdivision codes update. There's a public forum being held. One is actually being held here in Waimea at the Waimea Community Center. So across from Restore, there at the park, right on the park side there. So next Tuesday. And so if you're interested in, they've had a number of small focus group meetings, but if you're interested in learning about the codes and how far behind we are in updating them, this is what they're moving forward. The planning department moving forward, updating those accounts and records, documentation, adding more to it so that it's easier to read and understand from a layman's perspective. So that definitely helps. So next week, Tuesday from 5 at the Waimea Community Center. And as Officer Robinson mentioned, Coffee with a Cop, Friday, January 20th at Waimea Coffee Company. And then shortly after that is a concert put on by Commonwealth Philharmonic at Kahilu Theater. Then, as always, there's a kind of a monthly thing going on in the community. There's a Food Truck Friday event put on by a number of community members, and this is happening at Keck Observatory headquarters on the 27th of this month. And then I'm sure you're all looking forward to this one at the beginning of February. They're coming back probably in full swing here. Big event you should be all excited for. So this is the first weekend, February 4th. First weekend of February, February 4th. So do expect traffic and do expect a lot of fun in the community that day though.
I heard the venue's changing.
No.
I thought that we're gonna have a lot of events in Pukalani Stable this year.
No, not that I know.
No, I think it's pretty scattered as far as I'm aware, like it has been in the past. Yeah. Then also that same day, there's a quilt show being put on at Kahilu Town Hall by Kahui Kapa Opana o Waimea. So something else to visit and enjoy in the community that day when you're out and about. And there's also, this is a call for artists for our youth and our keiki in the community. This will be displayed, I think it's mainly online, but it's being displayed, I think, through Firehouse Gallery. This is an annual Naupio Youth Art Show. So something that's coming up and they're starting to accept submissions. I think that's all I have there, which is great. And then, we do try and put these events up on our Facebook page, social media. So if you didn't catch it here online right now, please find up on our Facebook page. We do try to keep that active. And then, lastly, we're still battling COVID-19 as a community. It's really our kuleana. So as always, if you're feeling ill, stay home, under the weather, wear a mask when and where appropriate, get tested if you suspect exposure, consider getting vaccinated if you haven't had the chance. We're grateful for the ongoing support of our medical community through the winter months as we dealt with this and our other respiratory viruses during the holidays. And we do hope as an association, community association, to revisit with our healthcare providers in the community and provide more information about ongoing healthcare issues for our residents. All right, so at this point, I'd like to welcome up Sean Saito. For the month of January, Waimea Community Association is spotlighting Tutu's House as our nonprofit of the month. With their generosity and hosting us for our return to in-person meetings, we thought it prudent to recognize their efforts in the community here. So Sean Saito is here with us tonight. She is the program leader here at Tutu's House to give us some insight into Tutu's. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So like James said, I am the new program leader here at Tutu's House. I consider myself kind of a new face here because I started in September of 2019, right before the pandemic, and have kind of been behind the scenes since then. So thank you all for coming tonight, and I welcome you to Tutu's House. And thank you for allowing me to share a little bit about us. Tutu's House is a 29-year-old community health and wellness resource center. The staff and volunteers have worked hard for nearly 3 decades to create a warm place of welcome and fun for everyone in the community. It is a self-welcoming, safe, welcoming place for all to explore, share, and learn about health and well-being, healing of the mind, body, and spirit. Activities and lending resources at Tutu's House are all free of charge for everyone. And in addition, we're also a meeting place for organizations like the Waimea Community Association. Tutu's House is a program of Friends of the Future, a nonprofit organization. We began in 1992 as sort of a series of talk stories with small community groups hosted by Earl Bakken. As the hospital was being designed and built and fundraised for. What I can tell you is before the hospital was completed in construction, Tutu's House had outgrown the space designated for Tutu's House and opened in the old Park Ranch Shopping Center near the Ben Franklin in 1994. Flash forward to today, we're here. We've been here since 2010. For the last 3 years, we've operated sort of in a hybrid like this situation or activities. We've continued to provide opportunities for you to exercise, learn something new, be supportive, whether you're a writer, someone with Parkinson's, or someone or a woman who just needs to talk story. We have ongoing activities, and I hope you check them out at on our website, www.tutushouse.org. Thank you so much.
We will be passing a basket around, so if you're at all in a giving mood, we'll be donating this to Tutu's House this evening for their generosity tonight.
Back to the tradition of passing it out.
Thank you, Nancy, for doing that. All right, so we're gonna transition back to our elected officials, and we're gonna really focus on the county now. So on the call with us here, we have council member and chair of the county council, Heather Kimball. I'm gonna pin you up on the screen there. All right, there we go. That looks a little bit better. All right, council member, if you would like to unmute yourself, we'll give you a little time here to talk about your goals and priorities for the county council. And then we can pass it over to Councilmember Evans, and then we can do a little Q&A how much time we have remaining. We'll try and squeeze as many questions as we can. Take it away, Councilmember.
Great, and thank you, James, for the invitation as always, and welcome everybody. Happy New Year. I was really hoping to join you there in person today at Tutu's House, and I had some car trouble, so here I am back in Hilo joining you by Zoom. It's really great to hear from our state elected officials because there's actually just so much alignment between both David Tarnas's priorities and Councilmember Richard's priorities. We're really hoping that he doesn't forget us here in the county council now that he's up there at the state legislature. I wanted to start kind of transitioning from some of those state ideas to the county, talking a little bit about some of the priorities that the county council has identified at the state level. So in addition to serving as a council member, chair of the council, I serve as the Hawaii County representative on the State Association of Counties. And this is an organization of all representatives from all 4 counties. And each year we go through and we put together a package of priorities for us to advocate for at the state level on behalf of all of the counties. And usually that package has to do with our own ability to generate revenue and also issues around home rule. So we have some bills that we're promoting this legislative session. One of them has to do with the retirement age for police officers. Right now they have to in order to be eligible for retirement, they have to serve for 25 years and reach an age of 55. We're just finding that that's not working very well, and we're having a really difficult time recruiting new folks to become officers. And that was changed. It used to be that didn't exist as part of the requirement. That was changed back in 2012, and we've really seen an impact on the size of our recruitment classes for police officers. Additionally, we're looking at regulation with respect to vaping and tobacco products. There was a law put in place recently that took away the authority to regulate that from the counties and gave it to the states. We are actually asking for removal of that law, that preemption law, and give the authority to regulate tobacco products back to the counties. We think we were doing it a little bit better than the state was and want to have that authority again. There's another issue that has to do with the traffic fines. The state could create parking fines in designated areas on state highways where they're a little higher to act as a greater deterrent. An example would be over in the Princeville area on Kauai, that state highway. They were having a lot of trouble with people parking on the shoulders, and so the $35 parking fine wasn't enough, so they bumped it up to $200. We have areas on this island, as you know, that are over visited, and we have a lot of tourists parking on the side of the road. And so in order to regulate that issue, we'd like to have the authority to do that ourselves here in the county and make sure that some of these places that are over visited are not being taken advantage of. There's a bill or a resolution that's related to when the Clean Water Act and what was passed with respect to the Maui injection well case from the Supreme Court, or the ruling on that. And then in addition, we've identified 4 priority areas where we didn't submit bills, but we wanted to, if the legislature introduces any bills in these subject areas, we will be supporting them. And so anything particularly around generating affordable housing, particularly with respect to lands administered by the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. And I know that was something that was brought up earlier. That's something that we're going to be supporting as a body of councils at the state legislature. Anything that has to do with workforce development, all 4 counties are experiencing pretty significant vacancy rates. We're at about 20% here on Hawaii Island. City and County of Honolulu is at about 26%. So we're looking for help from the state to help us develop our workforce. Anything having to do with wastewater infrastructure, sewer systems, cesspool conversion, support for cesspool conversion, particularly for lower income families. And then finally, any legislation that has to do with the availability of mental health services and substance abuse services. So those are some of the things that the State Association of Counties will be focusing on in terms of supporting activity at the state legislature. And obviously you can see a lot of those are aligned with what the goals are for Senator Richards and Representative Tarnas. At the county level, I wanted to just share, how am I doing on time, James?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Okay, good, perfect. We'll transition to some of the priorities here at the county level. And I met with the mayor earlier this week with the hope that between he and I, we could identify some priority areas that both the council and the administration could work on together. And for both of us, housing continues to be a high priority. And we kind of broke that down into 3 areas, looking at how do we prevent existing housing or housing that we developed from slipping out of the long-term rental inventory. And so part of that is looking at short-term vacation rentals. Excuse me a second. And part of that is looking at the term of affordability, they call it, or the number of years a unit has to stay affordable when it's developed through an affordable housing program. I know that some of you have probably seen the webinar we did on the proposed short-term vacation rental change in the law. I wanted to share with you folks, if you are interested in that, the video is available online, as well as the most recent draft of the bill and some frequently asked questions. So you can go to Hawaii County TAR And then TAR stands Transient Accommodation Rental. So hawaiicountytar.com, and you'll find all of that information there, as well as a form to submit comments and questions. I would say that this bill is very, very far from being ready. It hasn't even been introduced into council yet. We're just starting to put it out for public input. The second area of housing that we're looking at is the whole permitting process and how to make permitting more expedient and easier and more cost-effective for housing development specifically. And so there's a number of different pieces to that puzzle, but I'll be working with the administration on addressing some of that. And then finally, just looking at how do we financially make it easier for people both to get into their homes and to stay in their homes. A lot of folks, really it's one crisis, it's one medical issue, it's one car issue that makes it so they can't make their rent payment or their mortgage payment. So we are working on continuing and maintaining our emergency rental assistance and emergency mortgage assistance programs, as well as some residential repair and cesspool conversion programs that will allow people to get low cost or no cost grants to do repairs and conversions to their homes. Another area that we're looking at for this coming year is really based on the hydrogen economy and developing infrastructure relating to hydrogen, which we can use for marine shipping, for ground transportation, and even potentially aviation. And the county was just one of 2 cities in the United States that was selected for a special partnership under the Department of Energy to develop this hydrogen infrastructure with some areas that have been successful in doing so. This is potentially tied to a huge multi-million-dollar grant that could be brought in to create jobs and resources and infrastructure in our county. So that's another thing that we'll be working on. I'm sure Councilmember Evans will talk a little bit about the work she and I are doing on animal control. We have some very early pieces of that being introduced next month, so please look out for that, and I'll let her go into more detail on that if she'd like, but that's something that's a priority for both her and I, as well as the administration. Some of the other things that okay, thank you. Some of the other things that I continue to work on are making sure that our public accesses and our trails and ocean resources remain open to the public as they're supposed to be as part of our public trust doctrine. So we've had various projects going on throughout the district that have to do with just making sure the public still has access to their open spaces, and also working on some of the issues with respect to feral animals, particularly feral pigs and feral goats, working with the Game Management Commission on some solutions around that, but that's also in the very early stages. So thank you again for listening, and I wish I was there to see all of you folks in person, and thanks for the folks joining online. Appreciate your time, and have a good evening. Look forward to questions later.
Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Evans, if you want to join us up front, and then we'll hear from you about your goals and priorities, and then kind of touch on what Councilmember is also talking about. Thank you.
Well, there's one advantage to being at the end. They've covered so much. But the disadvantage of being at the end is you must be really tired, blood sugar, hungry, all that. So I want to say thank you, number one, for the patience to be here to listen. Obviously, you really, really care about what's going on in this community, and it's a really, really a special community. Now, can people see me that are?
Yeah, it's kind of picking you from your side, so however you're comfortable, that's perfect. Yeah.
Side view.
But you talk to the group here, however you feel comfortable.
Well, first of all, thank you so much. It's just such a pleasure to be back being an elected official. I started on December 5th. We had inauguration. For those that don't know me, I was a state representative for 16 years. The last time I served at the State House was in 2018. And so I was one of those that, wow, during COVID, I got to be home. But one of the things that I learned about being home is your government, how we do business has changed. So the pandemic now has really pushed us in a whole new way of how do we act with one another? How does your government interact with you? And I think we're having huge growing pains at the county level. And she did touch on, Heather touched on it briefly, is we're having a real shortage of filling jobs. Partially because with COVID, a lot of people were close to retirement and they chose to retire instead of going to work. Other thing is maybe their spouse or someone in the family lost their job, so they moved to the mainland so that they could, get work. And so we did have an exit out of Hawaii. I think they said 20,000 last year even. So that was an influence. And then the other thing is this embracing of the new technology and how you have to train your employees. And then now for those, if you haven't heard, one of the biggest complaints we have right now is the processing of building permits is huge. People are extremely frustrated. One of the problems is they have introduced a whole new software application system, and they've been trying to train everybody to do all their application for building permits, renovations online. And so they had an awful lot of problems when they stood it up and it just wasn't working right. And people were getting frustrated. It was getting kicked back to them saying, you're not putting in the right dot in the right place. And so they've been trying to work that out. I know what's happening, I've heard, is it's gotten a lot better in the planning department, which does the review of a lot of the process. And then they kick it over to the building permit division in Public Works. They're still having problem in Public Works. So what I feel my job is to sit down with the director of Public Works, sit down with the budget and finance director and find if there's anything that I could do as a council person in terms of funding, in terms of advocating, in terms of maybe educating. What can I do so that we can continue to make it better, a better experience for people? I'm telling you, I heard a story yesterday that they've been waiting 7 months, not for an addition, not for building, for a renovation inside. They wanted to do new floors. They wanted to tear out a wall. They wanted to maybe redo the bathroom, and it's been sitting there for 7 months and they're just frustrated. We have to be really sensitive to this because, people, for example, if you're in a construction, you may be taking out mortgages, you're trying to work with the contractor, there's costs to hold this while you're getting things built. You're paying these prices, and so it's really a burden on us. So that continues to be a problem, and, I hope it gets better. So if you'll let me take a few minutes to tell you, I made a decision that I was going to close the Parker Square district office. I decided that I would like to take the money that was being spent on a retail space and put it into some county facilities that, as we all know, repair and maintenance is one of the problems with county facilities. We don't have a lot of money, it seems to be, for repair and maintenance. What we do a lot of times, we'd like to put in for constructions because there's demand for new facilities. So we tend to put our money in that pot. But repair and maintenance means our facilities they start falling apart, termites, roof leaks, whatever. So what I did is I've moved into the Waimea Preservation Association building, which is on the corner across from the old Bank of Hawaii, next to the post office. There's that little building next to the Arts Council. So I'm in there now. I'm there on Thursdays with a staff person, so we'll always be there on Thursdays. I moved up to Kapa'au into the old judiciary building, and that building was transferred from the state to the county. It was a courthouse, and the state closed down the courthouse. That building transferred over, and they're really not using it. The bathrooms don't operate anymore. The roof has been in disarray. I found some termite stuff the other day. The trees have grown over the roof. There is Schefflera plants this tall growing up in the gutters. And so I'm taking the money that I'm trying to get the money shifted from the retail space that we were paying for and getting it to that building so that I can take care of that so it doesn't go farther in disrepair, and try to get that building up and running in the community using it, because it is your taxpayer dollars. That's what is a county building. You know, and so I want to get it where it doesn't fall apart. So, so I made that choice. I have my staff person, Jessica, she's there on Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Fridays. And, you know, we have, you know, she's there to assist. I also have a staff person in Hilo. His name is Jacob, and he's in the civic building next to where the council chambers are. His job is to help me write legislation, work with all of you, including Lonnie, Christmas Parade Festival, and how to get some discretionary funds and get them out to help offset the cost of the festival. I know Kalea has written me and we're talking about getting a budget, you know, what the budget would be for if I can help offset and get some money funneled that way. And grant and aids that I'm starting to learn about. Grant and aids are specific monies that come from the state and federal government, and they come to the state and the federal government, and then they're supposed to send them out to the counties. And what I'm trying to do is figure out where those pots of money stand and for what reason. And I think we can get actually more money into our district by learning what those grants are for and help us figure out how to write to get that money. I think there is more money there. We just haven't tapped into it. So I'm going to be working with the research and development department. And also civil defense, for example, they get grants of money to help us do emergency preparedness, sirens, you know, fire, you know, police, whatever. Sometimes the money comes through. We just got to know that it's there and go for it. So I'm going to be working on that. She mentioned animal control. So I'm going to shift over a piece of legislation. Animal control was, for those who didn't know, it was contracted out to a group called Rainbow. I can't remember their second name. Rainbow
Friends.
Okay, so Rainbow Friends, they were basically, the police chief decided they weren't doing their job and they got rid of them, right? Canceled the contract. So the police was kind of running it, and people were getting really frustrated saying, you know, it wasn't, I mean, the police chief, them working with the animal control officers wasn't working in terms of the oversight. So what we've done, Heather, you're still there? Heather and I have worked together and we've written a bill. It was recommended by the police chief and the mayor to try to stand up an agency. It'll be called the Animal Control and Protection Agency. It will have a director. It will have the staff we have currently that are animal control officers that respond, you know, when you call and you say, we need someone to come. We have several of those animal control officers. 1 minute. And we're going to stand up this agency and give them the ability to contract and get help. But I think the key to it, I want everybody to know the concept of no-kill shelter. That is really what we're about. You do euthanize animals when they're sick, they're diseased, they're at the end of life. But our goal is that this will be what is really officially called a no-kill shelter, which means we're telling them to really work hard to work with rescue people, with adoption agencies, you know, make it a shelter that really connects with the community so that, you know, hopefully we don't have to euthanize because we're overpopulated. That's what it's all about, right? We're going to have a conversation with all of us about how we're going to do a spay and neutering into the future. And of course, there's a huge group of people that care about feral cats, and there's advocate groups. How do we work together and have that conversation? There's an expectation, I think, that's why we're calling it animal control and protection, is because we want that value system of you need to work with the community to make sure that our animals too are treated, you know, treated as best we can. And so we're kind of excited about this, that you as the community are going to have to weigh in as we run it through the committee and through the council and see how you feel about this. But anyway, and I'll close with saying we're having conversations about standing up our animal shelter up here in Waimea again. I'm working on that because they closed it down. And we need to have some animal shelter up here on the north end here needs to have an animal shelter. So I just started working on that.
Thanks, Councilmember. So we're gonna have the both of you, and we're gonna take about 10 minutes before we close tonight.
Yeah.
So we'll take some questions from the floor here for both Heather and yourself.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
Jesse.
do you,
If you could
do you
introduce
know, I
yourself
don't,
too, by
I'm
the way.
sorry, I'm Shaseen Nugent. I wanted to know, I guess I'm not sure if you're the right people to talk about the crowded post office issue. We've heard so many different kind of, it's gonna move, it's not gonna move, it's gonna go, you know, left, right, and center. Do you know anything about the post office? You may not. It may not be a
I
fair
think
question.
it is gonna move. The question is how the cards fall.
Okay.
There was a lot of I was involved as a state representative in the discussion of doing a joint place for a brand new library, along with a post office, that there needed to be kind of a piece of land set aside for public buildings, public services, and there was some discussion on where that might be. It used to be, I'm hearing it'll be around the Waimea District Park area. It'll be on kind of in that area. Is if it comes together, you would want to, you know, have public, you know, when we lack public facilities, it's nice when you can put them together so they can share the parking lot and, you know, share the cost. The federal government pays part of the cost, the state might pay part of the cost. So it would maybe make more sense. So there has, yes, been quite a bit of discussions on that.
Do you know the time frame, or is that,
I
are we
don't
talking
know.
like 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now? 5, 6, 7 years.
I don't know. I think,
Because it's gonna take federal dollars to.
That's what I'm thinking, because of the
yeah.
feds.
And there's
Yeah.
conversations with Parker Ranch about that as well, so it's something that we're looking.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, so
Because it's Parker.
it's in process. People know it needs to be done, and yes, it is gonna happen. How quickly, maybe we can get a more clear understanding in the near future.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
Could you make sure that the architect is familiar with the trade room?
Yeah, on a lot of stuff. Yes, they actually made a mistake, I think, at Waihai Harbor North with the breakwater,
And the
actually.
community, and the new gym.
Yeah.
The new gym is bad, looking, bad.
With the wind going in
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
water
straight
and
through.
it goes.
It's the hell wet, they gotta cancel everything.
That wasn't supposed to be in Waimea, that should have been quite high.
Hi, Cindy. I'm not sure if you're aware, since you're new in the council, maybe Heather, is that our one and only community center here in Waimea is in somewhat of disrepair. The roof, and there's some very apparent things, and I'm wondering if you can commit to our community to looking into that with Parks and Rec and having the building assessed and evaluate what needs to be done.
Absolutely.
And in addition to that, it seems like it would be a really nice thing if that building were to have internet so that our community could use it for things like this. Is that something?
I can do that. I've talked to the budget director and I said, if I saved you money in that building, will you let me kind of put it back out in facilities in my district? So she had that conversation. She seemed to think that would work. So I like the idea of broadband and hotspots, and we have to talk to the R&D director because money's coming from the state again. They're trying to funnel out money for broadband into our communities, and we need to figure out how R&D, which is the director of R&D, his name is Doug Adams. We need to find out from him how they're making those decisions on where those broadband hotspots are gonna be.
Yeah, so both of the Waimea parks, Heather. Broadband.
Yeah, understood. And there is there's quite a bit of work going on right now with respect to broadband. So I think you're going to see a lot more connectivity in the near future. But I did want to mention to Councilmember Evans that I've got a similar facility in Laupahoehoe where we've partnered with the community, and they've been able to do some things like one of the sons was a roofer, so we provided the materials through a contingency relief, and then they did the work through a Friends of the Park agreement. So there's lots of ways to make these community projects that can be both community and council supported.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Kong.
Whatever happened to that Department of Homeland Security broadband initiative that was in the process of coming up? You were in the legislature then.
Lots of money's being thrown at broadband. The Congress continues to keep funneling money out, and a lot of times they do it through different departments for different reasons. That particular one, I'd have to go back and find out, how Homeland Security and what they're targeting their broadband for. But I think the broadband that's coming through is through, coming through federal FCC?
Yeah, it's coming through Hawaiian Telecom mostly. So it's coming through the state and then to Hawaiian Telecom for most of the household level broadband. Now, I think perhaps that the program that you're talking about is the one, the FirstNet. Is that the one that you're referring to, which was that contract was ultimately awarded to AT&T. And so they are in the process of building out that cellular network to create that access. It's not broadband per se, but it's a cellular network that is federally funded, and it is being developed on our island right now.
So I'm going to tag into this because one of my intentions is, because this is important to the community, your question, and everybody here I think cares about broadband and hotspots, you brought it up. One of my intent is to start having community meetings. And my community's meetings will be targeted on a topic with people that I invite to come and tell the community. And I guess I have to ask you, how many of these meetings can you handle? Because we can fill you up with meetings, believe me. But I was thinking, if it worked for you, I would like to look at Wednesday evenings to have my community meetings here. And probably once, it would only be once a month or once every other month, and we would do it by topic. And of course, it would be determined by us collectively what's hot topic for us. And I could make broadband and get all this information on broadband, that we could do that as the first meeting. We could do broadband.
No, but this was that broadband was for the DHS, Homeland Security, and it was for the reservoirs up here, and it was for monitoring the reservoirs so people wouldn't go in there and tamper with the water supply.
That has nothing to do with this.
Like I said, I've been gone for 4 years, so I have no idea how that would have played out. If it was through the Department of Ag or through the county, if it was the drinking water one above, that would have been the county one, which I just found out is still hasn't been repaired. So that hasn't even been repaired and finished, so.
Nancy, you had another question over here?
Yeah, just real quickly, these new offices of yours, do they have internet and the capability for the public to come and testify?
That's what we're working on. Yes, we're gonna do it. Yep, so I'm gonna bring internet and the ability to testify at the Waimea preservation. I'm working on that. I've already put a request in.
Okay.
So there is no capability now. Not right now, but they will.
Okay. When will that be?
Whenever I can get it through the process. I mean, sorry, I have to tell you this. I get a work order like anybody else. I don't get preferential treatment as a council member. I just get in the work order and say, I need to have 2 internet connections at the Waimea preservation. One is for hotspot. The other one is you can't zoom in and testify on council meetings without a special internet that has a certain type of thing that connects to the county's internet system. So we're bringing in 2 lines into the preservation. We're going to do it in Waikoloa, Kapa'au, and Waimea. So all 3 locations are going to be able to testify. That's what I'm working on.
So just to follow up on Nancy's question, then where currently is the place for community members here to be able to testify without driving to Hilo?
You zoom in on internet or you go to Kona. Yeah, Kona has a room that you go into, and yeah, but you can zoom in.
Any other questions for our council members?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Chuck Brown again, firefighter, fire inspector. The vacation rentals, right? And it's a 2-part thing. You got long-term rentals. I started long-term renting, then I went to vacation rent. So I'm thinking this bill that's gonna be passed, I'm a host, I live on my property. So these new, drafts, how do they affect a hosted, owner? And then, when I was long-term renting, I started out at a year, then I went to 6 months, then I went to, a month to month, because I had to take one of my tenants to court 5 times at this courthouse over here. So if you, because I feel, and a lot of people, I've talked to other vacation renters and owners, that the state of Hawaii gives more rights to the renters, the tenants, than they do to the owner, me, and I found that out 5 times. So that's why I will claw to keep my vacation rental, and I do live on the premises. So I want to see what your answer is to that.
Yeah, if I can go ahead and respond real quickly. And again, all of the information, the current draft of the bill and frequently asked questions, and yours is one of the frequently asked questions, is available on that hawaiicountytar.com site. For hosted rentals, we are just asking that you register. So if you are operating a transient accommodation on your primary residence, we're just asking that you register as a transient accommodation, and then you'd be subject to the standards of operation, which is like quiet hours and how many guests your guests can have over at a time and things like that. We are not proposing with this legislation shutting down hosted rentals where it's a primary residence. It's just asking everybody to register as a transient accommodation.
When you register, is there a fee? Because I'm already paying. They collected, well, they collect GE, they collect transient tax, and the county just came January 1st of this year and the 3%. And now what, is there another fee on top of that?
Yeah, it's $100 per year. We've tried to keep it really low and inconsequential for residents, and then it's higher for unhosted rentals.
I guess I can do that.
Yeah, it should be very, very clear that it is a work in progress. And like I said, the bill has not been introduced yet. We're still getting feedback from the community, managing our draft, making edits to our draft. And then once it is actually formally introduced, there will be a minimum of 6 public hearings, because it does have to go before the Planning Commission. So there's lots and lots of opportunity to give your input on this, difficult and complicated piece of legislation. But we're really looking for community input at this time. Oh, and your other question there, I wanted to make sure I addressed. If you're doing month-to-month rentals and you're under a landlord-tenant agreement, you are excluded from the transient accommodations because they're not considered transient.
Yeah. Well, I went month to month, but my part of the question was that can you guys do something? Because I think the county would be more, they're looking for long-term houses. They don't, I figure they don't really like short-term rentals by what's been going on. Because I went to that meeting in Kona, when they had the 2 meetings, and one in Hilo and one in Kona. So I got it up, I was happy, I left that meeting because I gave some people my chair, because when I found out that hosted owners were excluded, so I happily ran away. But now, I just wanted to make sure I'm covered. But I could go back to long-term renting if you guys equalize or the rights of the renter is you can't do that to the owners, because they'll
and that's been brought up a lot. I mean, you're not the only one raising that point, that the reason that people actually transition to transient accommodations when they could and would be willing to do long-term rentals is the landlord tenant code. And so that it is a state law. So it's going to require the collaboration with our state partners, but it is something that is certainly I'm taking to heart, because if that's part of the problem, then that's something we need to address too.
Yeah, because Cindy came to my house and we talked with her assistant, and that's when I saw that and experienced that, I was like, no way. So I will fight cats, tooth and nail, unless the rights come back closer to what the owner wants. That's your way, you representative of helping with what you want. So more affordable housing is give us our rights back and make it fair. And it's not fair because, like I said, 5 times before the judge over here in Waimea at the courthouse.
Thank you. No, appreciate your question. Thank you, council members. Appreciate your time here this evening. I'm just going to put up on the screen here just some contact information for our elected legislators. I'm going to just share my screen so this can be shown with the group. And then also so you can get their contact information also for our viewers online so they can see this here.
I got him down.
So this is their main email and then office phone number there and kind of their districts that they encompass in there. Yeah, we can put this up on Facebook as well. So this is a Representative Tarnas, and then I'll go to the next one here.
Thank you.
And there's Senator Richards, his contact and his role there across the north of Island here. For Chair and Councilmember Heather Kimball.
Okay.
And then for Councilmember Evans.
Okay.
Just want to share that with the group there. All right. So we're just going to close tonight's meeting. I just want to say the last few words. Mahalo nui to all of our presenters. Let me make sure. But that's okay. All right. So mahalo nui to all our presenters for joining us tonight, for taking the time to update our viewers and attendees, creating the opportunities for the community to engage at all levels. We're hopeful and excited for the year ahead. Thank you. And of course, thank you to our viewers and our attendees here that joined us here tonight, able to be here live at Tutu's house. So thank you for joining us. Grateful for your support as always. And you're welcome to revisit, rewatch this recording up on our YouTube channel, Facebook page, if you're so interested. And on behalf of the board, I wish you good health, be well, aloha. Our next meeting, before you run away, sorry, our next meeting is February 2nd, where it's going to be here. That's our goal, is to be here. And our main presenter that evening is Planning Director Zendo Kern. So we can talk about planning and codes and that sort of thing. So have a good night, everyone. Aloha. Thank you for joining. Thank you, council member.